Yeah, it sort of threw me for a loop there, right in the middle of our conversation, where I'm like getting all these alerts about how I'm breaking all these rules. Same
I
rules,
just got one as well because I shared spam apparently.
right? Yeah,
Your spam, but it's
got it.
cool. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll get there. Anyway, it is what it is. It's not like Facebook's ever making me any money anyway. So like,
Right.
it is it is what it is. All right, let's get into the business at hand. I know we have a short amount of time with you tonight. A lot of big news happening. Obviously, the storyline is we lost to the Cowboys, yada yada yada. Don't really care about that so much. The big one, the thing that we've been calling for weeks, finally happened. Defensive coach for the Commanders fired. Defensive backs coach for the Commanders fired. We've been talking about Del Rio should have been fired for quite some time now. What is your immediate reaction to the news and our head coach taking over defensive responsibilities?
Something had to happen. A lamb had to be sacrificed. And it was weird because I knew that Rivera was getting fired. I'm like, Rivera's out of here. And then I was sitting in the suite watching the game, the Giants debacle. And all I could think to myself was, you can't fire him because it's a short week. It's a short week. What you got to do is you got to wait until Black Friday. Let us go to Dallas, lose to Dallas, fire him, and then give EB, 10 days to set up. Like that's what's. So I wasn't even thinking. I was sure about it. Then Josh Harris leaked out that he was not going to fire Rivera. At that point, I knew it was going to be Del Rio. I said, Del Rio's out of here. He's gone. You can't really fire him after the Giants' performance, but that second to last touchdown against Dallas, I said that was the nail in the coffin. Del Rio's out of here. I don't know who takes over as defensive coordinator. I'm thinking maybe Ryan Kerrigan, someone on the defense, but he's gone. This we know. So when it happened, it was like, But at this point, it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. For me, it's Rivera. Rivera's got to go. The fact that players are leaking out they don't want EB as a coach makes me want to see EB as coach. Because like I said, when Jay Gruden got fired, any player that's on a losing team, on a team that's losing as badly as we are, and they're happy with the coach, I'm not happy with the players. So for them to say, "Oh no, we don't want EB, we're fine," like you're not fine. You're not fine. This isn't fine. What's happening isn't fine. Where's Dan Snyder at? I'm sorry.
Right. Well,
excuse me. I'm sorry. Because we blame ownership for everything that goes bad. It was always Dan's fault. And everyone thought things were going to magically change when he was gone. We were going to magically stop getting bullshit calls and everything was going to be. It's not fine. I don't have a problem with Josh Harris's approach. I don't have a problem with his, let's just get the best draft pick we can approach, which is what it looks like. Because at the end of the day, like I said before, $90 million, 5 picks in the top 100 is going to be very attractive to whoever the new GM is when the season is over.
I hope they split that also, have separate GM. That GM helps facilitate who the coach is. I mean,
that's how it should happen.
Right. So I think that's why they're letting him stay out the year. But the problem is then you get on the coaching carousel towards the end, instead of towards the beginning. So it's a dangerous. I understand why you want to set up the dominoes to fall that way. That is how most good institutions run things. But I worry that, we got to get the right coach and the right GM, and they got to work together, So and they've got to be that match that we need to be successful going forward. Because you think of all the great ones that have done it. I think of Baltimore as a well-constructed team with a GM, and a coach, and worked well together, and got on the same page, especially defensively and things like that. So we got to see some of that. For me, I kind of agree with you. I really want to see what EB has as a head coach. You get a free trial period. Why do you not take it? I mean, I guess on doing it this way is he is going to call his own defensive plays, and so you don't have to get another defensive coach.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that would be number one. And if you're putting him down as head coach, he's going to want to pick his own staff. He's going to want to run things his own way. I did hear, as most of us heard, that there was an argument between Del Rio and Eric Bieniemy during the Dallas game. It was not on camera in Dallas, but I heard that they got into it pretty heavy, and that Jonathan Allen, people thought that Jonathan Allen was the one arguing, but he might have been breaking it up, but he wasn't. The players have been openly criticizing Jack Del Rio's defense. St. Juice criticized the fact that they don't just run man-to-man. The lack of blitzes have been criticized. I feel like we wasted.
I don't understand. We should have just made the change 3 weeks ago. We were calling for. I mean, after he lost to the Bears and the Giants, gone. Like, why did he have to lose to the Giants twice to be gone? Like, why? The season could have been saved. There's been so many close games.
So many close games, and more importantly for me, you wasted that defensive line talent. You wasted it. And to see us blitzing, to see Del Rio begrudgingly blitzing, which is what he's been doing. Because he hates blitzing. He's been begrudgingly blitzing. And all I can think to myself is, had you blitzed like this when you had Chase Young, when you had Montez Sweat, along with Allen and Payne, this defense looks different. This team looks different. But you wanted to be Del Rio, and it's a shame.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. This whole season has been extremely frustrating because we were so close. My prediction when the season started, we'd come out of that Seattle game with a win. We'd be at 500. We'd go on a tear. We'd use momentum of that to go on a big run for the rest of the season. And if we had the defense intact and we'd won some of those close games at the beginning of the season, all of that was possible. And it just all fell apart. And it's just very frustrating as a fan of this team, just to watch a couple of games where I had both kids asleep and I was at the TV and it was a perfect moment. And just to watch that Giants game that you had to go to in person, but it's just like, it was brutal. In the Dallas game, I had to turn it off, man. Like, I was at dinner. Luckily I have YouTube TV, so I was watching it, but I'm like, it's like, yay, technology lets me watch this at a nice dinner, but like, do I want to? Like, it's just like, it's not, I should focus on my family and things that matter and not this sorry ass football team. Like, it's just that 45.
I absolutely left my mother's house. Like, my plan was, I work nights. So my plan was, watch the game, get a little sleep at my mother's house, and then go into work. In the middle of the third quarter, I'm like, man, I'm just gonna go ahead and head home. Go home and get some sleep, because why? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? I got what I came for Thanksgiving. I didn't come for a victory by Washington because I didn't believe it was going to happen. I never believed it was going to happen. I came for macaroni and cheese and ham because turkey's overrated, a little bit of stuffing, and I'm going home. That's it. That was it.
Nice.
Turkey's overrated.
I'm happy we had time with our family. Yes, in 100%. Our defense overrated. Our offense still not running the correct plays. Like, not enough.
We're the turkeys.
Creative. Right.
Where's Dan Snyder? I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, it's true. It's all very frustrating because I understand it takes time to rebuild. We didn't have things in place early enough in the season, but it's just, I had so much higher expectations than this, but maybe this is all for the best. Maybe you got to choke and you got to rebuild, and this finally gives us the excuse to push the button to reset the whole thing. But I don't know. I thought we could be better than this. I thought Del Rio was better than this, but it just, and then he just became the scapegoat because we all know who's the real person to blame. All right, real last question before I let you go. We have the Dolphins coming up. Any thoughts? I mean, that's a much better team than us. I don't have any expectations of a win. Well, what do you want to see from this week?
I honestly think the Dolphins game is more winnable than people believe. I think the Dolphins game is more winnable than people actually believe. I think you double team Tariq Hill, you blitz Tua. I think that game was winnable. We're not going to win because I don't think that's the goal anymore. But my goal would have been to see players fight. That was one thing about Rivera that he always had. The reason he never lost me was the players fought for him and they played hard for him. That's not happening anymore. It's not happening. They're not fighting for him. They're not playing hard for him. That's dead. So at this point, I'm looking to see how high we can get in the draft. And that's all I have to look forward to.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it frees up some of my Sundays. But like, I don't know. It's hard because I just had such expectations for this season. I know that
Where's
you did
Dan
too.
Snyder at?
I'll let you go try to find him.
Yeah, I'm
But
gonna find him.
I
got some
appreciate
questions
it.
for him.
And we'll definitely have you back on in the next couple of weeks, sometime after the bye. I don't know, whenever you want to come. There's always a open spot for you to discuss this team. But oof, a frustrating one. But I'm happy they finally at least pulled a trigger, and
Yes.
it's a start. So we'll see what the ramifications are. So I appreciate your time as always, and people go check out Life versus Lymphedema. I'll do the hurt command in chat since it doesn't matter if there's a link on Facebook since we're not there. But yeah, go check out the link. The link's in the description if you're listening to the show notes or on our YouTube later. But frustrating times for Washington sports fans, but I appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, I'm gonna go see CM Punk later on.
Yeah. I definitely want to get Champ's thoughts on CM Punk for sure. So we'll definitely get him in here. It's a good crossover. But I appreciate you and have a good night.
All right, later on, y'all.
All right. Well, welcome in, Champ, and we'll also welcome in Dujunnea for this next segment. And Champ, oh, you could hear how frustrated I was in that segment for a lot of reasons. Facebook, banning me for saying I'm a spanner, even that's how I met all you guys, and then all of my friends getting marked for spam because they were sharing it, and you've done it 8 years, done the same thing for 8 years. Don't know, me saying come watch a hockey game or come hang out with us while we wait for a hockey game, how that's considered spam. But I clearly shared it too many groups too quickly. And the Facebook overlords decided to hit me with a ban hammer. So, fun times on Facebook land. But we are live on Twitch. We will cut this up on Facebook, on YouTube. I will probably release some of those videos maybe later on Facebook too. But anyway, how are you doing tonight, Champ?
If Gordon Ramsay were talking about DC sports teams, he would say, "Why are these teams so shit?" Well, except for the Capitals, but we get this. You get the gist. You get the gist.
Yeah, well, even the Capitals lost 5-0 to a shit team, a couple of days ago. So
Edmonton dog walked us. That was crazy.
Yeah, 5-0. That wasn't good. Yeah, and in about 30 minutes live, we'll actually have another hockey game be against the Sharks. And Monumental Sports has got all the sports tonight. They also had a Wizards game. The game has gone final. I did pause that score, so if you're watching live on Twitch, you can see that we actually won a game that we were winning when we started the podcast. They didn't choke it away for the first time this season. So congratulations to the Wizards.
Not only did they win, but they secured 50% off on Papa John's tomorrow. So there you go.
There you go. 126 to 107. An actual laugher of a game on top of it. This is, Christmas from the Wizards. So I think that's their third win of the season. And we can at least celebrate that in a little bit in our Wizards segment. But and we also have got a game going on in the Monday Night Football game. A lot of field goals, 6-3. In this one, Bears are up over
Garbage.
the Vikings with 5 minutes left in the third. We'll bring in Dujunnea now. Dujunnea, I know you were hearing some of what I was talking heard about. We could get into the Dallas game. That's kind of not that exciting. But the big news, obviously, that we were talking about is the firing of the defensive backs coach and our defensive coordinator. and our coach is the interim defensive coordinator now. What are your thoughts on that news?
First of all, I guess better late than never. I do not believe that Jack is a scapegoat. I believe he is front and center part of the problem, has been part of the problem for years. But again, loyalty, Ron is. And the fact of the matter is that ownership pretty much, he had to do something. So, I mean, what can you say? I mean, it should have happened a long time ago, especially if what he deemed to be talking all season long about winning. It should have been done a long time ago. This offense has done enough in certain instances, but here we are. So he deserved it, but deserved it earlier. So see you later.
Yeah, I'm happy they finally made the call, but it's just like we've been asking for this for weeks.
Right. And it should have happened at the Denver game. You know what I mean? It really should have. He's had enough years here, and he's got, number one picks all over, first round draft picks all over that defense, and it's still producing the same way. You have to have a higher standard of excellence. And if that's what you believe in, then someone's got, to feel the wrath of that, because at the end of the day, the offense has at times been producing and at least has been progressing. So, he should have been gone a long time ago, but it is what it is. And finally, the fans get somebody's head on a platter, and it should have been his a long time ago. And I understand the defensive back coach being fired as well. They've played pretty poorly, but at the same time, I think he was a guy that Jack brought in as well. But at the same time, scheme has a lot to do with why those guys are playing bad on the back end. And I understand everybody's like, well, they didn't give up these touchdowns. They didn't, whatever. But at the end of the day, when you have players and you trying to pigeonhole them into something that they're not good at, I mean, everybody knows that, especially with the linebacking core, and they keep getting beat every week, then you got to look at the coach and say, what's going on here? So here we are, and Ron is going to be calling it. So we'll see what happens. I know he's supposed to be having a little bit of assistance from, I think it's the assistant defensive coach. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I would expect it to be a little bit different, and I think they may play a little better.
Yeah. Champ, what are your thoughts on the big news?
Get Del Rio the F out of here. Period. Like he should, like Dujunnea said, he should have been gone. He should have been gone. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to stay.
I feel you.
Woosah. Okay. Because I had somebody, because we streamed our live reactions to Survivor Series on Facebook as well as Twitch, and someone was looking forward to my thoughts on it. And I don't think they're seeing it because of what happened with Facebook. So F Facebook, by the way. It was clear that Del Rio had the talent on defense, but he didn't have the proper scheme for that talent. Like, you have a kid in Forbes who set the record for most pick sixes in FBS history, but yet somehow he's not adapting to the NFL. And that's definitely on Del Rio. He's his coach. He should have had him up to speed on that, to the point that they actually benched this kid. You know what I'm saying? And so clearly Del Rio is more concerned with, being home and, possibly talking about conspiracy theories about things and everything like that. Whatever. I don't care. What I care about is a team that I grew up watching, a team that I saw win a Super Bowl at 9 years old. I'm 41 now, and I have barely ever gotten to see that kind of success that I've seen here. So Del Rio and the DB's coach getting gone, good. And again, please don't get it confused. I am not a fan of people losing their jobs. I'm in HR by profession. And most more notably in recruiting, we're all about getting people jobs. So someone losing their job, that's something we're not about. We're about getting people jobs. So don't get it confused and thinking I'm happy that someone lost their job. But at the same time, Del Rio deserved it. We lost to the Bears, a shitty Bears team. Then we lose to a shitty Giants team twice. Then we get dog walked in Dallas on Thanksgiving. I want y'all to understand how painful Thanksgiving was for me. Not only having to see my dying father in the hospital, but having my girlfriend, who's a Cowboys fan, with a shit-eating grin on her face, watching the Commanders get dog walked on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving sucked for me. Thanksgiving absolutely sucked for me in more ways than one. And I'm so glad that Del Rio and that other coach were the sacrificial lambs for what happened there. And by the way, go back and listen to episode 331 of this podcast, because I called it. Deron Brand was going to break the record against the Commanders. Didn't I call that? I called it, and it happened.
Yep.
That's all I got to say. I called it, and it happened.
Yep. It's the only correction I have is it was on episode 322. I've never updated my Twitch title. That was my fault. But you're right.
Oh.
It was all you're
the last episode.
Right.
The last episode, I called that Deron Bland was going to break the record for most pick sixes in a season, and he did it against the Commanders when the game was already out of reach, and they decided to just pour salt in the room. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, I just figured out a hockey group reported me, and I think that's what caused the avalanche. I shared it to one of the other just general NHL groups, and so that was clearly my mistake. And then they reported it as spam, and then Facebook it just created an avalanche, which I just
it's a show, and they reported it as spam.
Yeah,
idiots.
Yeah, and I just won't share it to that group anymore. But like that's kind of bullshit. I think that they do their own show, and maybe they didn't like my show or whatever. But it's just like I hate that one. And I'm not even gonna put it up for review. I don't even give a fuck. Like this episode is done on Facebook. It's not. I might release clips to different groups later, whatever. But it's like it sucks so much that someone like one thing like that could then just avalanche and take the whole show off the air.
Stupid.
Yeah, it's really dumb.
Well, you got to think about something is that, like, I think it's the same thing with Twitch. A lot of Twitch streams, they have rules about promotion in their
chats,
streams,
which I understand. But this is groups about hockey. Like
they might have a rule about self-promotion.
They might, and maybe I didn't know that because that group I don't know that well, and I was quickly just sharing.
You got to be careful with that because some groups may have a thing about self-promotion and things like that. It still sucks, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. But anyway, I'm happy that I think I've discovered it because I was like, what did I do differently? I was trying to figure that. That's the part that was really bugging me. But regardless, anyway. So where do we go from here, Dujunnea? We've got a game against the Dolphins. I don't know. Do we think is it worth breaking down this Dallas game? I mean, it's more of the same.
Not really, because at the end of the day, we saw much of the same that we've been talking about all season long with Jack Del Rio. And we've seen some of the things that, kind of plague this offense when they're basically forced to have to be passing a lot. And this defense is just fast up front. And we got some guys that just are not good in those positions. You know what I mean? Just struggling here and there. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. So, it's much of the same. And it's really not worth. Like I said, I told you this was going to be bad.
We did. I mean, yeah,
it's unfortunate.
I knew this Dallas game was going to be pretty.
It was going to be bad.
It was going to be gnarly, but I didn't think they was going to get dog walk like this.
Oh, I did. I did, and I early I was like, okay, they're keeping it close, and then I think it was right before the half, it was like right before the half they allowed a score quickly after they got it within a few. It was like 14 to 10 or something like that. But they punched him right in the mouth. When they punched him right in the mouth, that was pretty much it. And and Dallas tried to keep him in for a little bit until the fourth quarter, and it just went off the rails. So, unfortunate, but like I said, it's hard for a team to play. And again, this is a team full of nice guys. There's not really an a-hole in the locker room to kind of call people out and fire folks up a little bit, maybe even call coaches out. But you can't win when your coach is a lame duck. And everything that he's saying, that's fine. He has to say it. But at the end of the day, it don't mean jack, because everybody know at the end of the year, he's going to get his walking papers along with a lot of other people. So
it's going to be interesting to have a lame duck coach and whether or not how many wins they're even going to try for at this point. And,
at this point, I mean, go out and play the games. Like I said, tanking is not possible in the NFL. I don't care what people say. Yeah. People on these teams are auditioning for a job, whether it's with the Commanders or somewhere else. They're auditioning for a job.
And I don't want that. I want to watch games every week that I actually care about. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's too few of them. It's not like an 82 game season. There's only 17 of them. I want to enjoy 17 games in the year. Like that's not crazy. No. It'll be interesting to see how, what we do.
Look, Miami, I'm with Hurt. I believe you got two people that are gone, a coach that's fired, a guy in Ron Rivera who has had some pretty good defenses in Carolina when he was in charge. How much will change? The scheme's not going to change, but the scheme is vast. So you can modify that to help out your back half and help out your linebackers a little bit. I agree with Hurt. I think the key is to get pressure into his face, come right up the middle. That's where he struggled the most. They don't really have the end power right now to come off the edges, but if you can kind of mix that up a little bit, I think it is a winnable game at home. And it sounds funny to say that, but if you watch Miami throughout the season, as I have, they play down to their opponents, man. I mean, they really do. And they find themselves in dogfights that they have no business being in. And all you need on the back half is for them to play sound football. Tyreek's going to get his, but it's a matter of making those tackles and don't allow them to get the yak, right? So, in this Dallas game, Sam Howell still threw for 300 yards. So nobody wants to see him throwing it 44 times. But in the same instance, and I know people have been crying about the run, but in the same instance, this team has to do what's best for them. And what they do well is screens, simulating the run, and having some running plays, which I thought they did a pretty decent job overall with the amount of rushes you distributed out through three backs. So, you do what you can and you do what works. And it's at home. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. See if the change fires people up a little bit. And we'll see if EB can clean up a few things there. And if people are going to continue to buy in, because I mean, there's things that are floating around about, people, thinking that EB has a little bit too much power, whatever the case may be. I say, cry me a river. You jabronis haven't won a darn thing. If you don't like it, get your butt out of the locker room and find somewhere else to play.
And you got to think about something is that Miami's getting ready to come here, and it's supposed to be cold.
Oh yeah,
on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't seen Miami play in a cold weather area yet.
Nope.
We haven't seen how they built when it comes to temperatures that are not in the 60s or 70s. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see how they built and how they're going to game plan when the temperature is like 30 or 40 degrees.
Yep,
that's one thing to think about. And here's a crazy thing. I'm conflicted again when it comes to this game because I have Tua as one of my starters in one of my fantasy leagues. And so a part of me is like, I don't want him to succeed because I don't want him to torch my team. But at the same time, I need him to succeed so I win in fantasy. It's a tough conundrum to be in. And by the way, shout out to his brother who broke the record for most passing yards as a Big 12 quarterback. His younger brother did that with Maryland this past weekend. And so you might have two Tagovailoa brothers in the NFL coming up.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a surprise. I really do. I think this team, again, same thing I said with the Dallas game when I was talking to my family about that. If they get punched in the mouth early, we're going to see more of the Cowboys game. But I believe with a few adjustments on the back end, if Ron is about winning, he's going to make those adjustments needed. And if they can adjust to what the personnel is, offensively, they can move the ball. It's just about getting it in the end zone now, right? That's been the problem. That was the problem in the Dallas game, unable to really finish drives. And I think they can do that. And again, Champ makes a good point. Temperatures are going to be really cold. The Miami boys are coming to a cold weather outdoor stadium. It could play a role. And I think they'll be up for it, being that someone got fired. Usually teams play well after games that someone gets fired. Look at the Las Vegas Raiders with Antonio Pierce, the first game back. And they still been fighting. Even this past weekend, they were fighting. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, people are playing for jobs. Coaches are coaching for jobs. So, I don't expect this team to come in and just lay down. But again, if they get punched in the mouth early, we're going to see more of the Dallas game.
By the way, rest in peace to Sean Taylor. 16 years ago today, we lost him.
Yeah, that hurts.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite players.
Yeah, my favorite player of all time, really.
Yeah, he was right up there. Oh, cut so short, so senseless. Oh, I was in college at the time. It was in Philly too.
And I don't cry over players, man, but that made me cry because he's the same age as my. He was the same age as my brother, and it's like it's just like, man, of all things, guys doing well, and he learned from a lot of his mistakes. He was really on an upward trend, despite what national media wanted to paint him as. He was just becoming a man and really becoming, a leader, really, and a leader to helping other people. And, you hear the stories from other players that played with him, but it's just, it was horrible. That was horrible.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. I was so upset when that happened. Yeah, it was just, it's such a shame. He played with such intensity. I just think of even the Pro Bowl that hit on right? Like, just he did not know how to dial it back. But it's just like, just the culture, how much that set us back as a team.
This franchise ain't been the same since.
Yeah, no, I think about that a lot. I hate to say things like that, but it set us back.
It's true.
Decades.
It hasn't been the same since. It really hasn't. It's wild to think that, but despite the fact that Gibbs 2.0 wasn't, what it was in the first, but there were a lot of moments where Washington was in a lot of, at least in the hunt. You know what I mean? It wasn't drab at all. And ever since that happened, it just hasn't been the same for this squad.
He was a Hall of Famer in my mind and a cornerstone part of that defense, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you could have built such a crazy defense around. I think of it reminds me a lot of that Ravens team, from the 2000s. You could have built a team around him, with that intensity, and there were good linebackers on the team at the time. Like, you know what I mean? It just completely unraveled in my mind that core of what it could have been, and
maybe it wouldn't have, because Snyder is Snyder, and to be honest with you guys, Snyder had one last dig, and that was selling this team late so that new ownership couldn't make any moves. So they had to go with what they had in place right now and hope that there's either Ron shows himself and they do well and they're able to build from this, or they see what they have and they know status quo is status quo, and we're going to have to start over and we're have to build from the front office, general manager on out. So I think that was one last dig from Snyder. This late sell, you're already deep and close to the draft. You can't make changes. And I know as much as people wanted it, you just can't make those changes. So here we are. And to be honest, is it surprising? To a degree? But I think it's probably a little bit different story if they make the call to get rid of Jack Del Rio sooner, because the defense in the beginning, and it has been all season, but right around the Denver game, that's when things were clearly unbalanced. Offense was doing its job, and every time to get a touchdown, defense gives up one. So I thought if they did it earlier, we could be singing a different tune. Are they, 4 or 5 games above 500? I don't know, but they might have a winning record and actually be in the hunt. I don't think that saves Ron's job at all, but I do think they play better if they get rid of the defensive coordinator who doesn't know how to use his players.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that there's 3 or 4 games that could have been a difference maker at a competent coach. I got to give a little Monday Night Football update. This is the craziest progression of events that just happened. So the Vikings had the ball, lame duck throw just to kind of get it out, almost like he was throwing it away. It bounces off the fingertips of one guy into the arm of the other guy who intercepts it. And then the first guy's helmet collides into the second guy, same team. And they collide into each other to catch the ball, and they get it. And then the next play, they almost fumble it, but then they have to jump on that ball again. It's just, this is a mess of a game. It's
two bad teams. Two bad teams. And unfortunately for Minnesota, you lost your quarterback. And Josh Dobbs is doing the best that he can. He's doing the best that he can. It's hard to come in and save a season like that, learning a whole new offense. It's ugly.
It's currently 9-3. The Bears are 2nd and 10 with 10 minutes
Baseball
left in the
score.
fourth. Yeah, I mean, but like one touchdown by the Vikings and they're in the lead, right?
Yes,
it's just like
exactly.
Well, the Vikings is getting a boost because they're getting Justin Jefferson back after the bye. So
yeah, that'll help.
They need it.
That'll help.
Yeah, that'll help Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, indeed.
Justin Fields is playing okay tonight. Oh, he just fumbled it. I jinxed him, and he fumbled it and gave it right back to. I was just about to say he's been playing okay. Had not had a fumble yet, and then as I am saying it, and he fumbles the ball.
That's funny.
Take over.
Robbie has the commentator's curse.
There you go, commentator curse. Even on YouTube delay. But anyway, that's just wild. He was on the 25-yard line. They were driving and punched out, and it just just a nice punch out, and just sort of strips it down, and 52 at the recovery.
I mean, I need Minnesota to get it together because I need one game to take sole possession of first place in the pick'em. So I don't know who you picked.
Oh, yes. Oh, who did I pick? Now this is interesting.
Because we're tied.
I know. Who did you pick in this one?
I picked Minnesota.
Huh. All right, let's see. Moment of truth. I'm gonna scroll all the way down here. I also picked Minnesota.
We're gonna stay tied. We're gonna stay tied either way.
So yeah, I'm curious though. My father-in-law is one game behind us. Did he also pick them, or could this?
You can see it. You should be able to see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it right now. Oh wow, and Hurt is right behind us. He's only one game back too. So let's see real quickly.
I picked Minnesota too.
Okay. Tommy picked Minnesota as well. And let's see what Hurt did in this one. It's been so close. It's been a really fun year in this pick'em.
This week's pick'em I did really well. I'm 11-4 at this point.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, and Hurt also picked the Vikings. No one took the Bears.
Because the Bears are ass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah,
It's gonna stay status quo then, regardless.
For sure. Let's see. Sith is right there in fifth. Did he pull an upset in this one? That's the last one. No, he also picked the Vikings. All right, but yeah, it's all very, very close. Let me see if I can pull it up on screen. It's always hard to do this, but you can sort of. Let me see. Is this
That's not bad.
There you go. So you got. There you go. You have one less loss than me. I guess you didn't make a pick one week that I got a loss in.
Yeah, it kicked that pick out because I always pick I pick the Sunday when it's over. I pick Sunday and pick for next week. I don't even wait.
Nice. Yeah, what I've started to do is pick all the Thursday games for the season because they're all live
right
now, and so that way at least I can I don't get caught on a Thursday. And then on Thursday, I always like, oh man, the picks, right as the game starts. And then I make all the rest of the picks, but at least I've already got Thursday in the books. So,
exactly. Yeah.
I almost screwed myself over because I only picked the first Thursday game last week, not remembering it was Thanksgiving. And so luckily I was like, the picks. And I was like, I gotta anyway, but yeah, it's been fun for sure. All right. Any, final thoughts that you've got, Dujunnea? And then the other question I have for you is, do you have a show this week?
Yes, we do have a show this week. We're going to be talking Wrestling with Champ, coming right out of the gates. We're going to talk about Survivor Series. We're going to talk about some of the good storylines that are going on between AEW and WWE. We will be talking NFL in the middle. We're going to talk about some of the big matchups, big games that we've had with Buffalo and Eagles. There's a big matchup coming up this week with the 49ers in the Eagles at Lincoln Financial. You got the Cowboys playing the Seattle Seahawks. And I think there's one more. Denver plays, I think it's New Orleans or something, but these are teams that are kind of right in the hunt. Trying to move forward. Denver's pretty hot right now. I think they've won 5 in a row. So we're going to talk about some big matchups, some on the back end. Really not much of a breakdown on the Commanders, but we're just going to talk about what to look for going forward. And I think if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see some of the coaches that I think are top 5 coaches that should be looked at, but don't get it twisted. I put the coaches out there, but this morning I put out the GMs and talent evaluators first because I at the end of the day, I think the talent evaluator, the GM needs to be selected first. And I think you guys will like the guys that I have selected. I know Lamar Bland had put out another one for Ian, the guy who is the general manager, or he works with the Chicago Bears. Just because of his record, his track record, he's been a part of a lot of success. So that was one that was in my 6th place. So that's why I didn't make the top 5. But, I'm just an analyst, reporter, looking at things. I love breaking this kind of stuff down when it comes down to college draft picks, and especially when it comes to looking at talent evaluators and, potential young coaches. I think what's important is this team get a coach that gels and understands what the modern player and can relate to the modern player. It's time to get rid of the retreads. I know, Bill Belichick, look, that's why he's not having success in New England right now, because he cannot relate to the younger player. It's a new generation. And you see these young guys. Look at the Miami coach. Look at a lot of these young coaches. Look at Kevin O'Connell. Look at Sean McVay. Look at Matt LaFleur. These guys are having success because they can relate to the younger player, to today's player. A lot of these older coaches that cannot relate and are insisting on doing their job and doing it the way they want to do it, no matter what, they're losing their jobs and they're not winning. So, check those out and tell me what you think. Who should be the GM? Who should be the coach? Who you want to be the coach? I'm really interested to see what the fans think about that as well. But my final thought is just, it is what it is. You're gonna have to hang in there. The thing of it is that you have is new ownership. All you have to do is look at Josh Harris's track record. They don't play. Like I said, they quickly got rid of Harden and sent him over to the Clippers. They don't play that nonsense. They really are about business and they're about winning. You look at anything that Magic has had his hands on, it does not fail. And at the end of the day, go look at the documentary on the Showtime Lakers and see, a little bit exaggerated on some things, but Magic was about winning, has always been about winning, and he doesn't like losing as the owner of this team. He wants to win still. And they will do that. I just hope that, they do their due diligence, don't rush. And I hope they're doing that now, because if you do it when the season's over on Black Monday, you're kind of behind, right? Draft coming up, all these different things. So, I just hang in there. It's ugly. And I know all of us thought that this team would be in a better position just looking at the talent on the roster. And I know a lot of people, I personally didn't agree with it either, getting rid of Chase and Montez, but you also have to look at what the ownership is looking at. And they're looking at getting high draft picks to bring in quality players to shore up some of these holes, especially on the offensive line that wasn't addressed. So, and it was a concern coming in. A lot of people were talking about it. Seawall, a lot of the analysts that cover this team were talking about that O-line being a problem and not being addressed. And, your guy in charge didn't seem to think it was a big deal. So just ride it out the rest of the season. Hopefully they can at least look respectable. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a new day next year. And we'll see what this team does as far as general manager and whether they decide to keep EB or not. He's in an audition as well. And I with some of the things going on and, the way things have looked, I don't know if he does stay. I don't know if anybody stays. But at the end of the day, there's going to be change. So the first change has already happened, and that's ownership. So I know it's tough. Just hang in there.
Yeah, it's tough for sure, but I always appreciate your insight. I think next week will be the last Commander show we do of 2023, unless Carol does a pop-up, because we do have a bye week on my birthday show, which is kind of nice. It means I don't have to talk about a loss on my birthday show by definition. Next week, I'm hoping to get Rio, a friend of yours, Dujunnea, on, and hopefully get all of our breakdown of the Miami game and going into the bye week. And hopefully that will be a fun show that all of us can do together. And then the following week, I'll do a birthday special where I'll probably just focus more on hockey and basketball, maybe even do a little bit of a shorter show. I'm trying to get Tim live in studio for that one, maybe Arun also live in studio for that one. But I appreciate you helping us break down this whole season. And then obviously our winter season will start with the national championship game in college. And I hope for your sake that your favorite team, Georgia, makes it to that.
I hope so.
Because that means you probably wouldn't be on that episode, but I'd be very excited for you.
I might pop in for a little bit.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
So I always enjoy starting the new year with that, and we'll take 3 weeks off in between. But yeah, so next week be our last Commanders talk. The following week will be the birthday special, and then we'll take 3 weeks off. But I appreciate you, Dujunnea, as always, for helping keep us even keeled and helping us predict stuff, whether it's your namesake scoring touchdowns or defensive coaches getting fired. But it's been an interesting season for sure.
It has been, and go Valdosta State. We got a playoff game here at home against Lenore Ryan. I'm super excited. I hope they win this one at home and get closer to that D2 national championship.
Nice. Awesome. Very cool. Well, definitely go check out Dujunnea. The links will be in the description on the website. You can catch our podcast links everywhere on sportsothp.com. And check out the Not Bland show this week. Has some fun and exciting guests, including Champ, who I'm going to talk to now about some basketball. But appreciate you and happy that you had a good Thanksgiving. All things
Oh yeah.
Not football related. But we'll definitely talk to you next week.
All right, brother. Looking forward to seeing you, champ.
DJ, I'll see you on Wednesday, brother.
All right, brother.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, we're gonna bring in Arun here to help us break down a win live on air. It's so rare. But I will let Arun give his thoughts on the Commander situation first before I switch over the graphics for our basketball talk. But Arun, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving wasn't bad, more relaxing. What about you?
Yeah, it was good. I had family in town. Usually we go to travel to New York City or down in North Carolina, and it was nice that everyone traveled to visit us this time. And my parents rented out a really nice restaurant in downtown DC, so we didn't have to cook. And we had a whole family thing there. It was great. And I had the game on my phone, and I could easily swipe it away when it was getting very bad. Yeah, I tried to enjoy my time with family and not too much with the Commanders, but I'm happy that we finally got our coach fired. Any thoughts quickly on the promotion, I guess, of our head coach to defensive coordinator?
No, it's been a long time coming for Jack Del Rio to have been fired because his play calling was abysmal. I forget when their last winnable game, he called like an all-out blitz, and it's just like I don't know why he did that. It was just kind of ridiculous. And in the second, the Commanders dominated the first half of that game with the defense, like against the Eagles. They were like just bad. I know they're missing Chase Young and Sweat, but they were bad before then. And it's been a long time coming that the play calling for the defense needed to change. And it's probably too late, but at least maybe there is some change and they actually do care about some accountability.
Yeah, people are watching what I'm doing on Twitch. I'm quickly creating a second scoreboard of the hockey game. At least I don't have to worry about Facebook banning me, for showing parts of the hockey game. But yeah, let me see. Does that graphic look pretty good? That's pretty good. The puck has just dropped on this hockey game. It's still 0-0. And I'm just trying to wait for the scoreboard to stop showing the defensive players to see if I've angled that correctly. And then I'm going to move it up over to there when it's ready. Arun, I do want to ask you a quick question. Did you watch any of the Ravens game that was last night?
Yeah, like some of the game. It was like a lot closer than I thought it would be, but in the end, even though it was somewhat close, the Ravens just kind of pulled away like 20-10. The Chargers defense hadn't been that good. Like prior to that, they've given up like huge amount of points. But maybe like there was no jet lag that they had to deal with. So that probably like given that's a night game. So the Ravens, they finally kind of put it back together after they had a disappointing loss a couple weeks ago, but now they're right back on track and they're dominating again.
Yeah. I was excited they got the win. I was a little disappointed that it was that close. But it was definitely an exciting game. It was a lot of back and forth, and I couldn't believe Justin Tucker missed a field goal. I thought that was going to doom them. Like they were only up 3. I kind of had this like horrible feeling that they might go and march right down the field and score. But I was lucky that didn't happen. I do now have the scoreboard live. We have the scoreboard for both the Wizards game and the hockey game. Just trying new things. So the Wizards game is over. We did win that one big. I'll let Arun give any final thoughts. Any other thoughts on the NFL before we switch gears?
No, not really. It was close in the first half between the Commanders and Cowboys, but it was kind of not so much after.
The Eagles should have got called for a horse collar tackle, by the way. Just going to put that out there.
Okay. They are the luckiest team sometimes. I'm always very like surprised at the calls that they get, and then going to overtime and that crazy kick. And that was a very exciting and crazy back and forth game for sure. I don't know if you guys got to see that. Did you watch any of that game?
I did. I watched the tail end of that game, including overtime. But I saw the images on Facebook, on social media, of the tackle on Josh Allen where they grabbed his jersey and bring him down, and there was a no call of a horse collar tackle, and I think that should have been called. I think that if that had been called, that would have been a lot different game than what we would have got with the Eagles ended up winning with Jalen Hurts running in on a quarterback draw to win the game. I think that it would have been a lot different had they called that horse collar tackle.
Yeah. I actually didn't see that play specifically, but I believe you. All right, so we got a power play. I think I got the scoreboard now showing up correctly. Look at that. I now have the power play timer displaying. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm impressing myself with my OBS skills. But you can see the live scoreboard, including how much time is left on the power play now. The Caps are on the power play, by the way. They have 2 shots on goal, 3 minutes into the first period. And by the way, the Vikings did march down the field and scored a touchdown. So they did take that 10-9 lead, 5:40 left in that one as well. But let's get into the Wizards. Let me see if I can get a scoreboard up for that.